everyone, this is ScrapComputer here. This video will be covering the support role and all of the complaints and general frustrations thrown at that role. I'm going to try and apply a little bit of logic and of course a little bit of rant towards this. We've all been a support player and we've all had this crap before. Hopefully it shines a little bit of light on it. Warding. This is cliche at this point, but at the end of the day, it's not up to support to only ward. From the update, which came out a long time ago that limited the amount of wards that can be placed, that means the support role can only put down 3 normal wards and 1 pink ward, like every other player. Most players at the start of the game have the yellow trinket, which means that you can always throw down a couple of wards. The support role is limited, they can't put down as many as they used to, and generally there's also sidestone, there's most junglers get trackers knife, you can throw that down too. Everyone's got free wards on them, everyone's got all of these nice little things, and pink wards of course being reduced in price, 75 gold now, also means even furthermore you should be getting your own wards as well. If you're looking at the map and it doesn't look like a Christmas tree, it's not the support's fault necessarily, it's your fault too, because you've got the wards on you. Now don't get me wrong, if they're not warding at all, it is an issue, but for the most part, if they're just playing safe and going for shallow wards, you can't blame them. I see a lot of players that also complain about supports that don't go really deep and get those really deep wards of Baron and Dragon when they're really heavily losing. It's because these are really common ambush points and you can get blown up trying to ward these places. They've got to go with you, the team, so just make sure you're keeping this all in mind. It's not up to them to just make sure the deep wards are down, or wards in general. Everyone has to chip in a little bit. Pink wards. Coming on again, for some reason a lot of players seem to assume that the support should always have a pink ward on them, or red lens. When they're taking a dragon, I've seen people like, where's the ward? And they always ask me as a support, where's the ward? And sometimes you've already used it. Once again, a simple point, but don't rely on one player to do this. I want to reiterate, the 75 gold, it's cheap to get pink wards. Try and pick up one at least. Really good vision over the map, and it helps out everyone together. Now, as a summary for the warding section, I do say that support of course should be putting down the most wards, but it's not up to them completely. Playing tank. Germ champion select, the support role seems to always be complained to, and it's assumed that they'll capitulate to the demands of the rest of the team and just pick a tank support. This support doesn't have to play utility, they don't have to play tank, they can play whatever they feel like, whatever takes their fancy. Now sometimes your team does need a tank, but that doesn't mean the support should always be the player who has got to stack up and pick it up for the team. They just don't need to play tank support just because you want them to or because the team needs to. Remember, this is a team game. Collectively we've got to make sure the composition works. Relying on the last player, last pick support to basically finish this and to fix the whole composition for you while not even considering it yourself is kind of just a selfish mindset, and it's not something you should really lean on too heavily. Protecting the AD carry or any other role, but mainly AD carry. This will make sense, but not always. AD carry specifically assume the support's immediate protection is theirs. I'm telling you now, if you're minus 20 as an AD carry, I may take my support ass and go protect someone else, like the mid who got 10 kills. Good job, Zeroth. Additionally, the support isn't just a protective role, they can do damage as well or help work as an engager. It's up to support to decide whether they use their abilities defensively or offensively. If the support Sona wants to ulti the entire team rather than use it to defend against 2 backliners on you, it's their prerogative, it's their choice. The Alistair can save his head but pulverize to combo a counter engage, he doesn't have to do it to peel for you. Overall, what I'm saying is, in any role they just don't have to dedicate anything towards defending you. This mainly goes to AD carry and mid. They can play whatever way they feel like will net them the best opportunity to obtain the victory. Now in saying this, yes, most of them are supportive roles and they will give their best to do this, but if in certain cases they're deciding that you're not worth it anymore or they can't defend you well enough, they're going to focus on counter engaging or they need a pick. So Thresh is going to use his hook offensively, not defensively. He's going to use his box offensively, not defensively. He has to make that calculated decision. In some cases you can ask and in chat articulate it, say I need protection for these reasons, I've got the sustained DPS, reason with them, don't just complain about not being utterly protected, because sometimes if you're out of position too much and you can't be saved, there's nothing they can do and they're just going to decide to do something else. Roaming. If the Blitzcrank wants to roam mid or in the enemy jungle, as an AD carry bot, you have to understand it's a pretty meta strategy and it's been applied for multiple seasons now. Applying pressure to another lane to ensure a stack kill or summoner burns means that you can get a good advantage on another lane, mid lane usually. Yes, this comes at the cost of the AD being left alone for 60 to 120 seconds in average. It's a hardship you have to bear for the greater good. Also, another note for this is that at the other end of the spectrum, if the enemy support is roamed onto you, your ally support does not have to keep up with the amount of roams that you've got against you. They're not keeping score. Saying the enemy supporters came 3 times doesn't mean you should expect 3 ganks from your ally support. They made us decide, hell, I'm just going to go down and try and kill the enemy AD, I'm going to try and take the turret. They'll just decide to do something else, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Dying for the team. Falling upon your sword isn't something you should assume anyone will do for you. Don't get me wrong, support is normally the least valuable after losing a fight because they generally lack wave clear potential and they're not as much of a threat, so they're more likely to be turret dove. But they're still worth as much gold as you are if you both haven't died a hell of an amount of times. A support should die for their team if it's really obvious, like Alistair Head with pulverizing an entire team if they're on your ass. But always being assumed to be sacrificial is kind of silly. If everyone's got a decent chance to get away, let the support try and get away. I've seen a lot of players that say, right, sacrifice yourself. I was actually told this a few games ago, and I felt it was a bit stupid. It's like, I have a chance to get away. Why would I immediately assume and 100% give them a kill when I've got an opportunity to get away? Getting kills. Now this is a big one and pretty conventional. Supports get kills, it's just the way the game goes. They do some damage. During picks and fights, you want to kill the enemy as fast as possible. If you're trying to burst someone down, a support will contribute to this task, and yes, inevitably this leads to them getting some of the kills. This is just something that happens. As long as the player hasn't just flat out stole a very obvious free kill you could have given to the AD carry or mid, there's nothing really to complain about. And remember, the support, even if they do get these kills, are actively doing something. They'll get Sightstone, an Alistair or Braum will get tankier, which allows them to turret dive. You get more utility items for your team. There's more wards down. You've got a bigger front line. These are not the end of the world. I see a lot of players that really complain about this. They support stole, and honestly, the gold is at use. It's still in your team side, and you have to remember, some people are trying to get away. You don't want them burning flashes or their teammates coming. You want to kill them as quick as possible. You can't expect the support to not do any damage in case the kill gets stolen. That's why in professional play, they'll immediately get the kill, and you'll probably notice this. Supports usually get a lot of the kills. It's because they're just trying to burst them down as quick as possible. They don't want to leave anything to chance, and sitting there and allowing the support to never do damage can lose you a lot of kills, and I'm sure with all that experience, this is why getting kills is an inevitability. Although it is avoidable in some circumstances, in most it's just an accident, and that's perfectly fine. The gold is still be put into use. Never get any CS. When the AD carries away or can't get a certain CS, the support has the complete reign to basically take anything they want. It would have been gold lost anyway. To be fair, I only see this in about bronze and silver, but it's still a good point to make. If you can't get it, if the AD carry can't get it, if no one's around to get the CS and it's all being burnt up, they might as well. As a matter of fact, in professional play, we actually see some supports picking up a wave of CS here and there if they're kill based, like Zyra for example. This is actually encouraged by their allies, knowing the gold is being put to good use in an aggressive role. Now this is something to really take in consideration. It's pretty important as well. Never feel bad about taking the odd bit of CS if it's not obtainable, or if your AD's... another big one is if you're AD carry and you're trying to push the lane out, you should always try and basically clear the minion waves as quick as possible. You're going to take CS doing this. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a natural occurrence. You're basically denying your enemy goal by pushing them out the turret. So once again, they're going to get CS doing this. In professional play, we get the same thing. Don't feel bad about it. Try to avoid doing it, but they are going to take a little bit, and that's just the way it is. Don't get angry at it. It's just an occurrence. Bad score. Support is one of the worst roles from behind. You're not allowed to get kills, or should actively avoid it. You can only nab assists, which relies on your team doing well, and since you're pretty far behind, that ain't gonna happen. If you're not doing well, you're gonna bleed gold, you're gonna bleed experience. You can only really get experience with other people in lane. You can't get any minion waves, you're not allowed to kill the minions. Coming back into the game from this role, this is the reason my support is one of those roles. It's actually a supportive role. Jungle and mainly support are the two supportive roles in the game, and they're really heavily affected when the team comes behind. They have to rely on their teammates to do things. That's why supports can actively, you can see -10 scores pretty common if they're losing quite heavily, but they still might have been useful during this. A support usually sacrifices themselves to the front line to soak up all the damage. They get burst damage. They've got to take risks. They've just got to jump in front of bullets to make sure no one else gets hurt. They've got to go ward in really risky places when they're behind. There's a lot of things to factor in here, and on top of that, they're not getting any gold, kills, assists, experience. They just fall behind really heavily, and there's not much a support player can do about this. They rely on you to do things. So if they fall behind and they've got a bad score, try not to give them too much flack. It is an exceedingly difficult role to do well in, and I'm really telling you that right now. I think support usually get a lot of crap, and it's really not fair because it is a horrible role to be behind in. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I attempted to try and put in a little bit of logic on top of a little bit of a rant there. Hopefully I've kind of focused on that and I've got a decent middle ground in here, because there's a lot of logic involved in this, and a lot of players, they seem to get irrational when some of these things come up, and it's kind of a little bit silly. Just have to look at it in a very logical manner and you're generally fine. It is a little bit of a rant too, because I know a lot of us have played, everyone's played support, and we've all had these occurrences, and they are very frustrating, and it's very good to get this off your chest. Hopefully you enjoyed it and it helps you out. Beyond that, guys, have a great day. Best luck in the rift, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much for watching.